Okay, Buber part 2. Part 1 and 2. Sorry. Okay. Um, in the second reading, Buber is talking about more about love, right? I heard one of you complaining that where is he talking about love in that chapter, right? So no, he's not yet talking about love. But in this particular chapter, he's talking about a crisis that his society is going through when it comes to love. And interestingly, we are still in that crisis today, right? So there's not much change between what he is experiencing and what we are experiencing today. The crisis is the crisis of marriage, right? So he's going to observe that marriage, in a way, has become a kind of thing we do, but it has lost all of its power, right? In other words, marriages don't work anymore. That's basically the idea, right? And if you look at today, it's the same thing, right? I think 60% of marriages end in divorce, correct? Right? So we have this institution, but it's clearly not functioning, right? It is not keeping people together, right? So he's observing that we are witnessing a crisis when it comes to marriage, and more broadly, when it comes to lasting relationships, right? We don't seem capable of what's the word? Sustaining a lasting relationship. So marriages are the official, right, statistics, but we have countless couples that get together, live together a few years, and then separate, right? But these are not in the statistics because it's not, right, there's no legal document. So there's much more. Probably everybody at one point went through a divorce, right, quote unquote. So we are really struggling as a society when it comes to the skills needed to sustain a long-term relationship. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go back to how it was in the past, because when you look at the marriages of the past, so meaning your parents, your grandparents, it's not great either, right? I'm assuming, right? Meaning they're together, but they hate each other, right? They're together, but they're always fighting. They're together, but they're cheating on each other, right? So even we can't even go back to some golden age, right, where marriages were working, right? It never worked. So it's not. I could go beyond Buber now. It's not even a crisis of our time. It's a universal. What's the word? All-time crisis, right? So Buber is focusing, right, on the way that the marriage or long-term relationship is not working, and he's looking at how some of his contemporaries have tried to get around that problem. And if you know the times of Buber, in the 30s in Europe corresponds to the 60s in the United States, right? So what's the 60s? What's the 30s? Is the beginning of the free love movement, right? So this was the backlash against marriage taking place in the 30s in Europe, where people decided this stuff doesn't work. So we're just going to have, whoever we want to be with, multiple partners, simultaneous or anachronistic, right? We're not going to believe in creating a single bond. We're going to just open, right, the relationship to whatever comes our way, and when it's over, right? If we're going to kind of enter man, I can't talk today. We're gonna forge a new way to relate romantically, right? And we're doing that today. So in the 60s, the idea was you love whoever you want to. At any moment, and if they have to leave, they leave. If someone else comes in, that's great. If it's simultaneous, even better, right? So you had that in the 60s, right, with the communes, right, where everybody was basically sleeping with each other, right? So, and nowadays you can have the variation on that. We don't have communes, but we have what we call polyamorous relationships, right? And a lot of us are considering this option, right? I think some of us are considering marriage, still hoping, and some of us are considering polyamorous relationships, right? If you look, for example, I have a weakness. I listen to the gossip on YouTube about famous people. I'm really ashamed of that. It's really like, it's my addiction. So I was listening to, what's his face? What's this actor who had a wife who had an entanglement? Thank you. Right. So I'm all into this mess, right? It's so fascinating to me. So I'm watching The Table, right? Have you seen it? I'm watching The Red Table, where she's like, destroying his life, and he's like, smiling. And Will Smith is great, so smiling through it all. And then, of course, so you know, I mean, in a way, they're doing something very interesting, right? They are trying to sustain a marriage. I mean, I have to give them props, right, for hanging in there, both of them. But the daughter, right, what's her name, Willow, right? This is me and the big gossip. We're sinking very low today. Uh, so Willow, of course, now having seen, right, the dysfunction of her parents' marriage, is saying, well, I'm gonna go for polyamorous, like that, you know, whatever. This is not working. Right, so this is where a lot of us are, right? We're noticing marriages is just it's just a facade. It's not functioning, and most of us are thinking, or most of us, some of us, right, are thinking, you know, why not try this? Why not just be open to love as it comes, as it goes, and you know, be open to a different version of relationships, right? So Buber is going to talk about both, right? He's going to actually criticize both, right? This is what's interesting. He's going to actually criticize marriage and really hone in on what is the problem with marriage, why it's so dysfunctional. But he's also going to, you know, criticize the polyamorous or free love relationship and show also there what is dysfunctional, right? So he's going to say basically both in a way have pitfalls that we must be careful with, we must be wary of. And then what he's going to do is proceed to look at how to redeem marriage, right? He's going to go back and try to see if we can redeem this kind of monogamous formula, right? And how. And we're going to see that what he's going to do is very interesting. He's going to take marriage and he's going to open it up, but not necessarily to multiple partners. He's going to open it up and give it oxygen, because that's what he believes is the issue with marriage. Why it's so dysfunctional is it's too rigid, it's too closed, it's too narrow of a concept. We need to broaden the concept of marriage, but not necessarily in the sense we're doing today when we broaden it to other partners, right? So he's going to really do something interesting there, which I think is worth exploring. Okay, so let's look briefly at the quotes, and then we'll see how he broadens the concept of marriage, right? So briefly, page 94. Second paragraph, bad institutions. Everybody with me? Just wave, say something. Okay. So now he's going to criticize the institution of marriage first, right? So he says, that institutions yield no public life is felt by more and more human beings to their sorrow. In other words, the institution of marriage is not life-giving, right? It's not giving true community. This is the source of the distress and the search of our age, right? And I do believe we are still there. All of us, in a way, want some lasting relationship to work, right? And it's when we realize this is not working that we open up, right, to other alternatives. So there is something really, there is really a search on the part of many of us for this kind of lasting relationship, but it's not working. And so he continues, that feelings yield, let me skip. Second paragraph, continuing with a marriage critique. Those who suffer, are you there? Yes, okay. Those who suffer because institutions yield no public life have thought of a remedy. Feelings are to loosen up or thaw or explode the institutions as if they could be renewed by feelings, introducing the freedom of feelings. Okay, so this is the other option. So backlash against marriage is too rigid, and we're going to see why in a second. And so the backlash is, okay, let's open up this thing, right? Let's have an open marriage or polyamorous relationship or, you know, free love, whatever you want to experiment with, right? Or swingers, right? Swinging. Is that how you say it? To swing? Is that the verb? Yeah? Okay. Right. I read such a nasty story about that. Never mind. The things I do in my free time are unbelievable. Okay. So anyway, so continuing, right? So the idea here with the polyamorous relationship, and he's saying here, this is actually positive, right? Marriage has lost all authenticity in a way, and so you were seeking in the polyamorous relationship authenticity. You're seeking to be true to your feelings. You don't want to play a role anymore and act like you're happy and act like you're in love for the sake of the kids or for the sake of the institution. You want to be true to yourself. I feel love, I'm going to love you. I stop feeling love, I'm out. I feel love for that person too, I'm going to tell you, right? There's an ethics, right, of polyamorous relationship, which is really interesting, because the idea is there is going to be multiple partners, but there's going to be complete honesty and transparency as to who is joining this relationship, right? So there is a kind of ethics there, that I'm not going to betray you, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm going to be authentic, even if it hurts, right? That's the idea. I'm going to be honest and authentic, even if it hurts, but I'm going to be true to myself. That's the basis, right? The moral basis of polyamorous relationship, because there is some moral basis, right? Moral basis is I'm going to be true to my feelings. I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to be sincere with myself and with you, right? Does that make sense? So you're seeing it's not just a random, right, crazy orgy thing, right? It's different, right? Polyamorous relationships have a structure. They have a moral foundation in the sense that I want to be true to my feelings. I don't want to lie to you, and I don't want to lie to myself. And this, Buber is saying, this is great. This is a good, this is an interesting basis. This is valuable, right? But then he continues, right? Now we go into the issues, right? Yeah, continuing now with the critique of marriage. When the automatized state yokes together totally uncongenial citizens, so now he's saying marriage often is between incompatible partners, without creating or promoting any fellowship, it is supposed to be replaced by a loving community, right? So we're moving from marriage to the commune, or marriage to the open relationship, and so forth, right? That's the loving community, based on love, based on feelings. And the loving community, right, or the open marriage, or the polyamorous relationship is supposed to come into being when people come together prompted by free, exuberant feeling, and they want to live together, right? So here he's saying we are really true to our hearts, to our feelings, and so forth. And now here he's going to begin the critique and say that is not enough, right? He's going to say that is not how things are. And now here's the punchline. True community does not come into being because people have feelings for each other. Continuing, but rather on two accounts, all of them have to stand in a living reciprocal relationship, and they have to stand, to a single living center, and they have to stand in a living reciprocal relationship to one another. In other words, let me explain. He's saying, yes, there is some authenticity. We are trying to be honest, sincere, but we cannot achieve, according to him, the proper depth of relationship if we are solely attuned to our feelings. There is a deeper way to relate that we are missing out on when we're just thinking about being true to my feelings and being true to whatever feelings are, right? So that's the issue. So now we're going to see why. We're going to get into the idea of why this is not enough here. And then we're going to look at the renewal of marriage, right? So we talked about, in the introduction, I mentioned the I-it, the I-you. There is a new concept that we are seeing here. It's the I-I, okay? So going deeper, right, where he's just laid out the two. Marriage is not working. Free love is also not going deep enough, or open marriage is not going deep enough. We're missing something. So we're going to see now technically what is the issue, right? So we go here on page 92, last paragraph. Now he's going to analyze the problems with both, with more technicality. Okay, standing under the basic word of separation, which keeps apart I and it, he has divided his life with his fellow men into two neatly defined districts, institutions and feelings. Okay, that's what we just talked about, marriage and polyamorous, right? And now he gets precise. It district, I district. Now this should tell us something, okay? It district meaning this is an I-it, and I district, he's introducing new concept. This is an I-I relationship, okay? So let's look at this a little bit. So he's basically saying the problem with marriage is that, this is what you write down, right? The problem with marriage, summary, is that it degenerates too often into an I-it relationship. And the problem with polyamorous relationships is that they degenerate too often into an I-I relationship, okay? And both of them miss what Buber calls the I-you, which for him is the deeper way of relating. And that's the problem with both, right? So let me say that again. Marriage falls into the I-it, degenerates into I-it. Polyamorous relationships degenerate often into the I-I, right? And they both miss this deeper level of love, this deeper level of respect, this deeper level of connection, which Buber calls the I-you, right? And so in a way, we have to recover that, right? Now, it's interesting. Buber is going to work on marriage to recover the I-you. Irigaray is going to work more, when we talk about her next week, she's going to work more, not so much on the polyamorous, but on the how shall I put it? She's not going to talk about marriage anymore because she doesn't believe in marriage. She's still pretty monogamous, but she's going to look at that. How do we renew that type of relationship, like the domestic partnership? So, okay. So let's analyze a little bit. What in marriage often, how do you see couples becoming or their relationship degrading into an I-it relationship? So first of all, what's an I-it relationship? Let's review. What's an I-it relationship? Yes, Colada?
I can answer.
Okay.
An I-it relationship is like when you don't really like value the essence and like the true value of a human being, you kind of just use them and discard them to whatever you want.
Okay, very good, right? I-it is what we learned with Kant, right? It's the person is an object that is there for your benefit, right? And then when they don't function anymore to your benefit, then we're done with them, right? In a way. Okay, so how do marriages often fall into this notion that the other is there for us and is nothing more than supposed to and it? Give me some examples, some colorful examples of marriages degenerating into a I-it relationship. You can use your parents. You can, no, just kidding. You can you can use people you know, right? And we see this everywhere. Go ahead.
I think that this was could come to marriage, but I see a lot like especially in high school and college, where having a boyfriend or girlfriend is not really much being with someone as much as it is just filling a box.
Yes, that's
so
true.
We come to that place where it's just a fulfillment of that sort of criteria, like in life, oh, I have to do this, that, whatever. And boyfriend or girlfriend becomes a box.
Yes.
And you can check it off.
Excellent.
And it becomes, I've done that, and now it's time to keep on working on your box.
Yes, very good. Right? Very often marriage is a box that we, right? It's supposed we're supposed to do that, otherwise we look stupid, right? I mean, who wants to go to a family gathering single? No one, believe me. I've been there. You don't want to sit there looking stupid. Everybody looking at you like, pitying you, right? You know that in our society there's a strong pressure to get married or at least be with someone, right, in a kind of more or less stable relationship. Otherwise, you're looked down on, right? So you know that you have to check that box. And so many of us are, we want to get this out of the way. And at one point, we'll take anyone. So yes, good. So that's often right for status, for in order to not look like a loser, or sometimes for money, right? We fall in love with someone who has money, so we're like, now I'm going to be okay, right? All the wrong reasons, reasons, right, to get into a marriage. Now, within the marriage, how does the couple often interact in an I-it manner? What do you notice? That you like, they're treating that their spouse as an it. I can see that. Give me some examples of itness that you have seen. And don't act like you don't know. Yes.
I think I'm not really sure. Like, I guess like when they start arguing about like if they don't like if their needs are not being met, so like that's what I must say. So I like for me at least like seeing arguing, like I've seen like maybe like a person like start saying like, oh, you didn't do this for me. Like I don't explain it very well. But, like,
No, it's good. You're doing very well. Yeah, absolutely. Most of the arguments in a marriage is you are not fulfilling this need. You're not giving me what I need, right? And often this need is not a big deal. Right? I mean, you can argue over infidelity or whatever, right? But if you're arguing over like you never doing the dishes and or whatever, I mean, you can argue. There's nothing wrong with arguing. But very often the marriage starts to disintegrate. Why? Because we are thinking that person is not fulfilling their role of doing this for me, right? That person, I mean, even your therapist will ask you, is that person serving you, right? They have to somehow give you, right, X, Y, and Z. And we go in a marriage full of expectations. My wife should do this, my wife should do that, my husband should do this, my husband should do that. And when that expectation is not met, right, we don't follow Rumi's advice to have no expectations, right? Now we are in a big problem in the marriage. And many, many divorces come from the fact that you are not giving me what I am expecting of you. And that's the beginning of the disintegration. But as you are arguing, you are actually on a very superficial level of the marriage. You're still stuck in the I-it mode, right? And Buber, thankfully, is going to show us the deeper mode of relating, right? But many of us fail because we have not known how to cultivate an I-you relationship. We have been stuck in an I-it. Let me say that again. Many of us will fail in marriage or have failed, right, in relationship. You can diagnose why you failed. And I can bet you thousands of dollars that at the root of your failure was an I-it relationship, was a disintegration or a degeneration of your relationship into an I-it relationship. As soon as your relationship becomes an I-it, where you have expectations, you need to do this and this and this, and you're not doing this and this and this, and now I'm out, right? You are the beginning of the end, right? So that's the first thing we're seeing, right? Now you can see a little bit how, and really, and so thankfully today we're going to learn how to get to the next level, right? How to rise above the I-it, start to develop an I-you, so that then the marriage will be able to endure, right? The chaos. Right. Okay, so now quickly back to polyamorous I district, I relationship. Now, can anyone guess what that means? You know, I-it, I-you, I. What does it mean to be in an I relationship? That's a very intriguing way to put it. And he's saying polyamorous relationships where they are problematic, right? On the one hand, yes, it's good. There is authenticity, there's honesty, there's sincerity, there's integrity, right? I'm going to be true to myself. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to, put on a show for you, right? But there is also the issue of there is a problem which Buber names the I relationship. In other words, it degenerates quickly into an I relationship. What does that mean, I relationship? Take a guess. Use your imagination. He's being poetic, so we can be free. What does it mean to be in an I relationship? And how do polyamorous relationships look like that? Make an effort. Yes.
So like when you're in a relationship and like the other person's just there for you, like it's all just about you.
So careful. We have to distinguish between I-it, right?
So, okay,
See, I-it is there for me, but what's an I? How is it different from the I-it? That's the question, right? You want to try?
I still like to say like it's like you're basic, not like for you, but like everything is about you.
That's still I-it.
Oh my god.
I mean, you're almost there with the notion everything is about you. You're almost. Look at the I. Is there somebody in this I relationship?
Mm-hmm.
There's only you. What Buber is saying, and this is really, really insightful. He's saying in a polyamorous relationship, there is no other. There is only you and your feelings, right? Since you're only following your feelings, and you're not in the least possible way attuned to the other's feelings, what they are going through, what they want, you're thinking, no, just me, my feelings, right? My integrity, me, in a way. This is the issue, he says, right? This is where the relationship is not necessarily immoral. We see that there's an element of morality in the integrity, the sincerity, but it can quickly degenerate into there is only me and my feelings, and I'm just going to follow my feelings, and you, whatever, you're a, what do you call it, collateral damage of my feelings, right? Just like in a war, right? You shoot a bunch of people, and then a bunch of kids die on the sidelines. Something we're really good at as a country, by the way. I had to say that, right? It's the same, right? You are here with your feelings and your integrity and you want to be true to yourself and you want to follow your heart. But as you're going through that journey, you're breaking everybody else's heart in the sidelines, right? And sure, we can go back to Will Smith and and bash, on Jade. What's her name? Jada, right? I'm sorry for all of you Jada lovers. But it's interesting. I mean, I'm just going to analyze that, right? Look at, she's really showing the morality of the polyamorous relationship because she's honest. She has her red table. She's going to tell him how she feels. I mean, this is great, right? You got to give her props for that. Right? This is new. You don't have this in classic marriage. In classic marriage, everybody shuts up, right? So she's very open. She's very authentic to her journey, right? In fact, she says that to Will, right? She says, I'm happy I did this, right? Remember, she said that? I had to do it. I had to go through this. I was suffering a lot, and this was my journey, right? And in a way, she feels good about the whole thing. And she's right to feel good because she has been completely honest with herself. Collateral damage, Will Smith, right? Complete, right? I mean, he denies it, of course, he has to, right? But so do you see how it's working, right? Do you see the I relationship, not to bash her or anything, But Jada Pinkett Smith is really in an I relationship, as far as I can see it, right? She is really very much attuned to herself. I mean, this is in a way great because she is really, I mean, I think that's a progress in a way from the I-it marriage, where she's refusing to be a perfect wife, right? She's breaking out of the norms. That's her purpose, right? That's really what she wanted to do by having this kind of open marriage, right? So she's trying to break out of the right, of the classic marriage where this your little wifey doing everything the husband wants, right? So she's breaking out of it, and this is props to her for doing that, right? I really love the way that she's really herself, right? And she's not gonna bow down to anybody or surrender to any. She's really very whole in a way, but she's also very narcissistic, right? And that's the issue. So props to her for breaking out of the I-it. I appreciate that about her. Props to her for becoming a self while being in a relationship with a man. This is something that we women rarely do, right? We're always sucked into the relationship, or we're always kind of, fusing with the partner and doing whatever. She's really kind of stepping out of that mold, really affirming and celebrating her own integrity, but at the same time, what I'm at least seeing, maybe I'm wrong, right, is a very strong I thing going on when it comes to her. She's really on her journey, and Will Smith is collateral damage. Okay, does that make sense? Am I making sense? Are some of you mad at me for bashing on Jada Pinkett Smith? Or were you fans before this? And this is all on YouTube. This is great. All of this is going to be public in a few hours. My career, I don't know where it's going to go. Anyways, all right. So just to give you the illustration, right? All right. Now, so this is why now we really have the urgency to get into the IU. Right, and Buber says this here, right, on the, where is it, page 95, right? He's going to go back now to the marriage model, or at least monogamous model. He's going to say there's still hope, but there is only hope if we can open that marriage up, right? And when he says opening it up, he's not saying to open it up to other partners, but it needs to be opened up. And he's aware that the marriage is too marriage as we know it is too narrow, it's too asphyxiating, it's too rigid, it's not working because of that. We need to open it up, we need to put some oxygen there, and that's what he's going to be doing. And now here's the way he proposes to do this, page 95. Even institutions of so-called personal life cannot be reformed by free feeling. Okay, going back to that. Now, here's the sentence you underline. Marriage can never be renewed except by that which is always the source of all true marriage, that two human beings reveal the you to one another. That's the key. All right, so let's see what that means, right? What does it mean to reveal this? So what he's saying basically is if you're in a marriage and you want it to work, or a monogamous relationship, whatever, you want it to work, you need to grow away from the I-it, and you need to enter the IU dimension, because once you do, you will renew your marriage. Basically what he's saying is as soon as a marriage starts to deteriorate, look at the root. It's always that it has become an I-it relationship. And so the best way, you don't have to end that marriage necessarily. You can go back and recreate, renew, or re-reveal the you to one another. You can, and so we're going to look at how to do that right now. So go to today's reading, which is page 55. All right, today we're going to learn how to renew marriage with this paragraph on the top of page 55, which describes in very great detail the IU relationship. And so as we go and explain each section of this passage, we're going to directly apply it to how would it work, how can we do this on a romantic in a marriage, right? All right, so this is poetic stuff, right? He's using metaphors, images. So here, like with Rumi, I'm going to rely on you to help me clarify some of these metaphors and apply them to marriage. So be prepared to talk. All right, first thing he says, whoever says you does not have something for his object. Okay, this is repeat of Kant, right? It's not an object, it's not a thing, it's not an it. And Kant said that, right? You don't use someone as a means, right? They're not just there for you. They're not just there to make you happy. They're not just there to fulfill you. Don't come with loads of expectations of how they will make your life easier, because they're not supposed to do that. That's not their task. Remember, we talked about that. Task of the beloved is not to make your life easier, but harder. Okay, got that? Once you get that, you will be much happier, right? Okay, so we know that already now. Here's the interesting new idea. The you, I'm skipping a little bit, has no borders. Let's look at that and see what he means by that. What does he mean that when you see someone as a you, which is what you should be doing in a healthy marriage, right? What does it mean to see them with no borders? Let's stop on that a little bit and explore this idea together. What does it mean to see your beloved with no borders? So I'm going to need you. So think hard, and if you have something to say, speak. Also you on Zoom. Yes?
Not just like you don't see them, sort of relates to what I said before, as just wife, just husband.
Good.
Just, place. Or,
Okay,
status.
excellent. First thing we need to get rid of to have a good marriage is the stereotypes that come with wife and husband, right? I'll give you a few. I'll help you, right? A wife is supposed to stay at home with the kids. Huh. Well, a husband is supposed to provide for his family. Okay, so you want to get a PhD, you're a wife, and who's going to take care of the kids? Me? Right? Yes. We don't know the outcome of that story. Husband all of a sudden wants to become an artist. He was working in finance, making good money, and all of a sudden he wants to stop and he wants to study art. And as a wife, you're like, what? This is not what we planned. This is not why I married you. I married you because you were a good provider. And now what are you going to, right? So now we're again saying, you can't be nothing else than what this stereotype's prescribing for you, right? Wife, you're supposed to have kids, many kids, right? Husband, right? You're supposed to make this much money. Give me more stereotypes around wife, husband. Wife, you're supposed to submit to me as your authority, husband speaking, right? Wife, in this passage of scripture, it says wives, right? And then I'll let you fill in the blanks, right? The wife actually would be smart to quote other passages of scripture which are equally interesting when it comes to husbands, right? But we don't know them. Good. You see the many stereotypes that we inflict on each other, and what Buber is saying, we need to open this marriage, right? We need to open these categories. Wife maybe means she's on a high career job, right? No time, right? Husband maybe means he's gonna maybe earn less and do maybe more in the home. Who knows, right? Wife, husband, blurred. We know how we have gender fluidity. Let's have marriage roles fluidity. Let's do that, right? That's what Buber is saying. Let's be more fluid about this. Let's not say man has to do this, woman has to do that, husband has to do this, right? Let's open up the categories based on the couple and let them figure out their own dynamic. That's how you open a marriage. If we don't do that, he says, we sink very quickly back into the I, it. Your wife, you're supposed to do that for me. Your husband, you're supposed to do that for me. Many, many problems in couples stem from this lack of fluidity when it comes to gender roles in the marriage. Many problems can be traced back to that. Buber is saying, open the marriage up, right? Open these categories. Very good. How else do we put borders on each other? That was a good one, Guzman. How else? That was pretty the best one, but there's another one. What happens when there's a betrayal in the marriage and the way you perceive your spouse? And going back to Kierkegaard, right? This passage of you having no borders relates directly to what we talked about with hope. Can anyone make the connection? What does the no borders have to do with the practice of hope or the work of hope that we talked about last time? This is good review for y'all. What does hope do in terms of the borders that we put on each other? Don't disappoint me. Yes. Excellent. Thank you, Goldblatt, right? Despairing of someone, boom, they'll never change. Border, right? We have now limited them to that mistake they made. They are now defined for the rest of their lives as that mistake. And we cannot see how they will be anything else. That's despair. Despair is seeing the past of a person and making it the future. That's the definition of despair. That's how you despair of someone. What you did there in the past, you will do it again, and therefore you cannot ever be anything else. Boom, big border. Bah. we have boxed them into their past, right? Hope breaks these borders and says, you did this in the past, in the future, we could be anything as a couple. You could be anything as a man or a woman. And I am going to focus on those possibilities. You see how hope breaks those borders, those limitations we set on the other, the way that we trap them in their past mistakes, right? That's a border. But hope is saying, no border. You could be anything. We could be anything. And I'm going to believe in the possibilities rather than what happened in the past, right? So that's another way. And this is another reason, by the way, many marriages fail, right? It fails because what you did in the past, I can't get over. And I will never get over. And I will always carry this and see you with suspicion and always distrust you. And no marriage can survive that. Marriage can survive betrayal, cannot survive resentment, right? Betrayal you can get over if you can begin to hope, but resentment and distrust cannot survive. Marriage will not function like that. Yes?
What if they don't have hope in themselves?
What?
What if the other person doesn't have hope in themselves?
Remember, hope is powerful, right? So if you have hope in them, you are watering the seeds of the possibilities. You are actually awakening hope in them. You see what I mean? So yeah, so I know it feels like, but what Kierkegaard is saying is something which I don't think we're taught enough, is that hope has power, right? Love has power. We don't realize how powerful love can be, right? I think Martin Luther King was the one rare American author who understood that. He wrote an amazing book called The Strength to Love and showed how love can change politics, right? The love can change a political system. And he proved that to us, right? So in the political sphere, we saw how love in action can actually, right? Because he was functioning on the trajectory of love. That was his thing, right? I'm not going to be violent or resentful. I'm going to choose love. And we can see the changes that occurred through him following the trajectory of love. All the more so in the personal relationship, if you choose love and hope for your partner, it has a huge impact. Now, might not, right? Partner might be too, right? But I'm saying this is the best scenario, this is the best thing you can do for them. This is the most loving thing you can do for them. It doesn't mean they will change. Some people are really deep, maybe in addiction. You know, there are things like that where it's very hard to reach, right, the other person. But if there is one glimmer of hope, if there is one glimmer of possibility, the hope will water that, right? So you're giving yourself the best chance of making the relationship work without, of course, 100% money-back guarantee, right? This is not a capitalistic book, right? So yeah, but that's the best thing you can do for them. That's basically the idea. That's the most loving thing you can do for them, right? Great, okay. Let's look at the last one. Whoever says you, was there a question? Comment? Okay. Oh, I saw something in the chat, sorry. Okay, somebody's asking about, and got his question answered. Okay, last one. Whoever says you does not have something, he has nothing. Oh, what does this mean? You're in a marriage and you have nothing. What does that mean? What does it mean to look at your beloved and tell yourself, I have nothing? That doesn't sound very optimistic. What does he mean by this kind of poetic idea? What does it mean to look at your partner and realize I have nothing. I have no thing. What does it mean? It's a paradox. I have nothing. I hold that which cannot be held. I possess that which cannot be possessed. Are you following me? What am I saying? Yes.
Maybe the relationship is one-sided.
Huh?
Maybe the relationship is one-sided.
Every relationship, are you saying?
No, just the relationship.
Oh, on the one hand, yes, but I'm looking at, I want you to think slightly differently. Remember the Song of Songs? Do you remember the last verse of the Song of Songs that we talk about? It's a long time ago. We talk about that, the woman, what she says. Does anybody know what the woman says to the man at the very end of the Song of Songs? Last words. First words we know, right? Remember it was kiss me with the kisses of your mouth, right? Basically, I want you, you have to come here, right? Last words, anybody remember or no? Yes?
Wasn't it the shift from her saying that, the shift of possession,
Yes, that's what we're talking about. And the last words really highlight that. Do you remember what they are, what she tells him in the end?
Now he's my lover, or was it that now I'm his lover?
That's still in the middle. It's the very last words, yes.
I just want to explain it. Like it's like saying like the person in the relationship is nothing. So you're saying like no thing. You don't have nothing. So it's like you don't have something in the relationship. You have a person.
Yes, you're on the right track. I'm going there. I'm going where you're going too. You're right, right? I just want to highlight it. Come on, guys. What's the last words of the Song of Songs? Nobody knows, for real. Okay, go read the text. I'm going to tell you now. But she tells him, right? Very different from the beginning where she's telling him, come to me, I want you, I need you, I crave you, right? In the last words, she's saying, go. Literally, go. Go be yourself. That's literally in the Hebrew what she's saying. Go be yourself. Go on your journey. And she adds, be like a gazelle on the mountains, right? Be wild. Be free. Don't be mine. That's crazy, right? But we saw her process, so we know what she means, right? She's a woman who went from possessive to letting go. That's what he's saying. Whoever says you does not have something. He has nothing. The ability to let go. Be you. I'm not going to control you. I'm not going to make you like I want you to be. I'm even going to let you go on your journey if you have a journey to go on. Because this is really, if you're not capable of that, you're going to really suffer in your marriage. There are moments in a marriage where the other person has to pull back and go on their own journey. And that doesn't mean they'll never come back. It doesn't mean they're, immature. It means that this is a human thing, right? Some of us sometimes need to pull back from everything and go on a journey and find out who am I? Especially if we get married young, right? If you get married young and you're not fully made, you will have moments when you turn 30 or 40 where you'll be like, I can't figure out who I am anymore and if I belong with you because we have changed so much. And so you have to allow sometimes your beloved to go on that journey of who they are and what they want. That is one of the deepest acts of love, is to let them go if they need to go and wait or not. You don't even have to wait. This is just letting go and accepting that the other is not your possession and they have at any moment the right to go on that journey if they need to, right? This is what the Song of Songs is telling us. She's telling him, go be you, right? In the Hebrew, lech lecha, go towards you, right? Go be you, go on your journey, go to the mountains, I release you, right? Are you seeing how we have really broadened this categories of marriage? You are now in a marriage where there are no gender roles, right? Where you are hoping, where there is only despair and everyone telling you to leave, but you're like, no, I see deeper, right? And the third thing, you're letting that person go on their journey. Do you know a marriage like this, right? This is the new open relationship, right? This is the type of open relationship that Buber is saying we need to begin exploring this if we want to sustain monogamous relationship without falling into the I-8 category. To open a marriage and to spice things up doesn't necessarily mean bring in new partners, right? That's what we think, right? Let's spice things up. Let's go, on a swingers date, right? And Buber is saying, yeah, we need to spice things up. Yes, we need to open up, but here is one way, right? Here is the way that will be sustaining to the relationship, nurturing to the relationship, rather than will destroy the relationship, right? Okay, so that, actually, I like teaching this in one shot. It was better that way. You got a better lecture than if I divided it in two. I'm just reassuring you. This was really good in terms of how I arranged it to fit it in one. Okay, any questions? We have some time. I can't believe we have some time. We're doing both passages. Any burning questions on whether, your thing, your struggle with, Willow versus Jada versus Will. Yes, go ahead, Colad.
Actually, I have a question because everything is I, you. What if the person, let's say I'm in a relationship and I give everything to the other person and I didn't give nothing back? So what type of relationship would that be?
You're in an IU, not them yet. Right? But remember, he is talking here about reciprocity, unlike Kierkegaard, right? Who said you just get your own roots, right? And be yourself by giving. Here he does say, I have to say, that it is revealing the you to one another. So to save a marriage, it's not enough that one person is doing all the work, but this is the beginning of the saving. right? Eventually, you do want to get to a point where the other is also treating you like a you. And that's what Buber is saying. The marriage is fully saved when both are treating each other like a you. But to get there, sometimes you have to walk alone for a bit. And this is what we shouldn't be afraid of, right? Kierkegaard, right, is saying you can walk alone for a very long time because you have this source you can draw. You have your roots deeply in love, right? But it is true that for a while, often when there is a crisis, it is enough actually that one of the partners awakens. I think that is enough. And there is and it does feel unfair, and the partner will be like, why I gotta do this, you know? But if you have been enlightened, don't complain. Enlighten everything around you, right? Sometimes the partner who can save the relationship, right, has become awakened. And instead of complaining that you are now the one supposed to rejoice that you have become awakened, right? And that you now can lead the relationship somewhere, right? So, yes, so I would say Buber ultimately saying, ultimately we want the balance, the reciprocity, but you can begin this journey by yourself and you know, be vulnerable, express what you desire, right? And at the same time, be patient, right? That's the idea. It's a balance between this is what I desire, but in your own time and in your own ways. The ability to, it's another tension, right? I desire, but I know that you will give it to me when you're ready, right? That's the tension that we haven't talked about and should. I have to find a text on that. Okay, great. Any other questions? Does that clarify, Colado?
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, good. All right, so I would start doing those test questions. Right, you can do Buber now. Right, so start every weekend now because you have the 3 questions together. So do Buber this weekend. Next weekend, Irigaray will do. And then that's it. And then you can take the test for Kierkegaard, Buber, and Irigaray. Yes?